In this video, we will talk about DHCP relay agent and its configuration. A DHCP relay agent is any host that forwards DHCP packets between clients and server. Relay agents are used to forward requests and replies between the clients and servers when they are not on the same physical subnet. Let's get started with the lab and learn more about the configuration of DHCP relay agent. Here we have taken two pieces connected to the switch, and the switch is connected to the router over the subnet, which is 10.10.10.0. And this network over here is connected to a DHCP server. We have another network here, which is 10.10.20.0, consisting a switch towards which we have two pieces connected, and this is connected to the router. And between the routers, we have another subnet, which is 192.168.40.0. So here we can say 40.1 on this port and 40.2. And similarly, since we have 10.0 network, so I will choose 10.1 for this port and 10.2 for this DHCP port over here. Okay, so at the moment, we do not have any configurations made for DHCP server. And if you try to send a request, so definitely you can see that by default, it goes to a paper. Yeah, so we now have to go ahead and configure interface and then turn on the ports that are turned off at the moment. So let's get started with this interface over here for the router. So we will take router 0 first. Say no. Enable configuration. And this port has got fast Ethernet 0/0. So interface fast Ethernet 0/0 with IP address 10.10.10.1 with /24 subnet mask, no shut. And there we go. We can see this interface is turned on. We have another interface which is fast Ethernet 0/1. Let's configure the same. Interface fast Ethernet 0/1, IP address 192.168.40.1 and /24 subnet mask, no shut. And since the other end is turned off, let's go ahead and configure our R1, which is router 1 over here. Enable config, and interface is fast Ethernet 0/0. Interface fast Ethernet 0/0 here with IP address. We got 192.168.40.2 with /24 and no shut. So we got this interface turned on. We have this port over here. So let's go to interface fast Ethernet 0/1. IP address. mm, we got 10.10.20.1 here with /24 and say no share. Okay, so we have configured the interface for the routers, the router 0 and router 1. We are left out with the IP address configuration on this DHCP server. So let's go to the port. Here is fast Ethernet 0 and the IP address is 10.10.10.2 with /24. So for this, the default gateway is obviously 10.1. So let's add 10.10.10.1 and DNS server, we will keep it as 8.8.8.8. So we now need to configure services and create a pool name for the DHCP. So here we have two subnets here. Yeah. So we need to create two pools on the DHCP server. So we're going to choose pool 10.0. Okay, because this is on 10.0 network. Default gateway for this is definitely this port, which is having 10.1, 10.10.10.1, DNS server 8.8.8.8. So since we already allocated .1 and .2, let's begin with .3, 10.3 for the next host within this range, so that any PCs or any host connected on this network will get starting IP starting from 10.3. I'll just save this. It says a new pool is formed, but we also need to create a pool for this 20.0 network. So obviously, go to the same DHCP server. Let's create another pool. So here we will say 20.0. That's done. And the default gateway for this network over here is going to be 20.1. So 10.10.20.1. DNS is the same. I'm not going to make any changes. And since we have allocated 20.1, so let's choose 20.2 for the other host. It's an automatic IP address assignment from the DHCP server. So 10.10.20.2 is the starting IP address, and just click on save. Ensure the services is turned on. Okay, we need to add that. Okay, so it took the other 20.0 and wiped out 10.1. Let's add it manually for pool 10.0, where that's for this network. So default gateway 10.10.10.1, this IP address, and starting IP address, since .1 and .2 is already allocated. So we'll select dot 3 as a starting IP address. Save it. Let's just exit and add it back. 20.0 is missing here. Default gateway is 10.10.20.1. DNS server 8.8.8.8. So for this 20.0, starting IP address 20.2. So a new pool is formed. So we got two pool. One is for 20.0 and the one is for 10.0. And ensure we have services turned on for both the pools. Okay, so now for this network over here on our router 0, we have directly connected network which is 10.0 and 192.168.40.0 network. But it doesn't understand the network over here, and hence here comes the necessity to configure RIP. So let's go ahead and configure RIP on router 0 so that it can understand the network connected on the destination. So click on the router, configuration, router RIP version 2. The directly connected networks over here for router 0 is 10.0, 10.10.10.0. We have another network which is 192.168.40.0. And we will say no auto summary in order to have a classless IP addressing and exit. Similarly, let's configure RIP on this router here, on router 1. To router RIP version 2, we have directly connected network. Here we got 10.10.20.0, 10.10.20.0, and one more network here. So network 192.168.40.0. 128.40.0. These are the directly connected network for the router 1, and gave the command no auto summary to have a classless IP addressing and exit. Okay, so we are done with configuring RIP on router 1 and router 2. Okay, so now let's go ahead and check the IP routes in both the routers to ensure our configuration is correct. So on the router, let's say show IP routes. So here you can see you got two directly connected network and two other RIPs that you just configured with the hop and with the 120 hop count for RIP. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the um, IP address on the PC. But um, okay, so let's go to request IP address, and here on this network, which belongs to 10.10.10.0 network, you can see the IP address is successful. You got IP address starting from 10.4 for this PC here, and definitely let's try to check here, and there we go. You can see 10.3 automatically allocated. But if you check the IP address when you try to send a broadcast discover message from this PC here, you will see that it's still requesting IP address, and there we go. You can see a pipa is being used. The reason is because this is in a completely a different subnet. So when you are sending a broadcast discover message from this PC, the moment it reaches this router, the packets are dropped. So there's no way for this PCs to reach this destination here. The destination here is your DHCP server, and the packets are getting dropped here on this router 1. And hence, we need to configure IP helper address on router 1. Okay, let's go ahead and configure IP helper address on the router 1. Make sure you select the port on the router which is facing towards this client. And here, the port here is fast Ethernet 0/1, which is facing towards the PCs. Okay, so interface fast Ethernet 0/1, and this is the command that we use for IP helper address. So IP helper let's just exit out of this and yeah, go to configuration, select the port, interface fast Ethernet 0/1, IP helper address. And if you give a question mark, you can see it's the IP destination address. So for this PC to reach the destination over here will be 10.2, which is the IP address on our DHCP port. Okay, so you need to give the same IP address here, which is this IP address on this fast Ethernet 0. That's going to be 10.10.10.2 in exit. Okay, so now we're done with configuring the IP helper address. Let's go ahead and request the DHCP server. Let's send a broadcast from this PC. Okay, so it's already there. So you can see 20.2 is automatically assigned to this PC. And let's check this PC here. So you got 20.3. Okay. So this completes the lab for DHCP relay agent, where we have seen, um, though we have different subnets, we were able to get the IP address assigned automatically from the DHCP server. I hope that this video has been informative to all. See you in the next video.